July 7, 1944, 4:45 a.m. Saipan Island, Mariana Islands, Pacific Ocean. Captain Benjamin Salomon stands in his medical tent 50 yards behind the front line. Around him, 32 wounded soldiers. The humid air is saturated with the smell of iodine, blood, and ocean salt. Salomon is 29 years old. Just 36 hours ago, he was a dentist. Now he's a field surgeon for the 2nd Battalion, 105th Infantry Regiment. Behind him, 30 yards from the tent, waves lap against the shore of the Philippine Sea. Ahead, in the darkness, 2,000 American soldiers crouch in foxholes, and further still, in the jungle, between 3,000 and 5,000 Japanese soldiers prepare for the largest suicide attack of the Pacific War. Salomon doesn't know that in 60 minutes the Japanese wave will break through the defense, that his medical tent will end up at the epicenter of battle, that he'll have to make a decision that will determine the fate of 32 wounded men. And he doesn't know that 58 years from now, the President of the United States will present him with the nation's highest military honor for what happens this night. Because by dawn, 98 enemy soldiers will lie dead around Benjamin Salomon's body. How did a dentist from Los Angeles become the hero of World War II's largest Banzai charge? Benjamin Louis Salomon was born in 1914 to a Jewish family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His parents were immigrants from Eastern Europe who dreamed of giving their son a good education. In the 1920s, the family moved to Los Angeles, California, where young Ben grew up as a typical American boy, playing baseball, attending regular school, dreaming about his career. In 1937, at age 23, Salomon earned his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree from the University of Southern California. USC was a prestigious institution, and the young graduate opened a private practice in Los Angeles. He had every reason to plan for a peaceful, successful life. But in 1940, with war already raging in Europe for a year and a half, the United States began the draft. Salomon received his notice and was enlisted as a private in the infantry. This was standard practice. The Army needed soldiers, not dentists. Benjamin Salomon spent 6 months in training camp, mastering the M1903 Springfield rifle, infantry combat tactics, 30-mile marches with full gear. His instructors noted the draftee's physical endurance. Years of university athletics had paid off. Salomon showed excellent marksmanship results, was disciplined and methodical. But military command eventually discovered his dental degree. In 1942, he was transferred to the Dental Corps with a commission as a lieutenant. Formally, this was a promotion. Actually, it meant that instead of foxholes, Salomon would treat teeth in a safe rear hospital. Benjamin Salomon took this as an insult. He repeatedly submitted requests to return to combat units. Command refused. Qualified dentists were needed no less than infantrymen, but Salomon was stubborn. He continued training as an infantryman, spent his free time at the rifle range, studied tactical manuals. By 1944, Lieutenant Salomon had been promoted to captain and was assigned to the 27th Infantry Division, which was preparing for operations in the Pacific. His position? Division Dental Surgeon. His desire? To be where the war's outcome was decided. June 15, 1944, the 27th Infantry Division landed on Saipan as part of Operation Forager. This was one of the largest amphibious operations of the Pacific War. 60,000 U.S. Marines and soldiers were to capture an island defended by 32,000 Japanese troops. Saipan was critical for both sides. For Americans, it was a staging ground for further advance on the Japanese home islands and a base for B-29 bombers that could reach Japanese cities. For Japan, losing Saipan meant the collapse of the outer defensive perimeter and a direct threat to the homeland. The 27th Infantry Division, under Major General Ralph Smith, consisted of 16,500 soldiers. Unlike the Marines of the 2nd and 4th Divisions, the 27th Division soldiers had less combat experience. They had only participated in 2 minor landings on Makin and Oniwetok atolls. The 105th Infantry Regiment was one of 3 division regiments. Its 2nd Battalion numbered approximately 900 soldiers, divided into 4 companies, A, B, C, and D, headquarters. The battalion was commanded by Major McCarthy. Captain Salomon was still listed as division dentist, but on July 6th, an event occurred that changed everything. The 2nd Battalion surgeon of the 105th Regiment was seriously wounded during a Japanese counterattack. He required evacuation. The battalion was left without a surgeon in the midst of combat operations. Battalion commander, Major McCarthy, urgently needed a replacement. Captain Salomon heard about this and immediately volunteered. Formally, he was a dentist, but his medical degree allowed him to function as a surgeon. Moreover, Salomon understood perfectly that this was his chance to get to the front line. Major McCarthy agreed. On July 6, 1944, 18 hours before the war's largest Banzai charge, Captain Benjamin Salomon became the field surgeon for the 2nd Battalion, 105th Infantry Regiment. He received standard battalion aid station equipment, surgical instruments, morphine supplies, sulfa drugs to prevent infection, bandages, tourniquets, and blood plasma. 4 medics became his assistants. The equipment was set up in a small canvas tent approximately 4 by 6 meters. Salomon chose the aid station position himself, 50 yards behind the front line of foxholes, 30 yards from the shoreline, on level ground near the village of Tanapag. The distance to the front was calculated thus: close enough to quickly bring in wounded, but far enough to remain outside the zone of direct fire.
Theoretically, the evening of July 6th, American intelligence captured a Japanese soldier who reported a major attack being prepared for dawn. Command reinforced the defenses. Artillery dug in guns for direct fire. Machine gun crews took positions. Soldiers in foxholes received extra ammunition. But nobody knew the true scale of what the Japanese were preparing, because in the jungle, a mile from American positions, the remnants of Saipan's defeated Japanese army were gathering, 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers. Many were wounded. Some had no weapons, only sharpened bamboo stakes. Some walked on crutches with bandaged heads, barely able to stand. Their commander, Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito, had issued the order for Gyokusai, honorable death through suicide attack, 60 hours earlier. The general himself didn't intend to lead this attack. On the evening of July 6th, he ate his last meal and committed seppuku, ritual suicide by sword. Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, commander of naval forces on the island, killed himself alongside him. Command of the attack fell to Colonel Takuji Suzuki, Division Chief of Staff. General Saito's order was simple and terrible. Whether we attack or stay in place, only death awaits us. Let each man kill 10 Americans. 4,000 men against 2 battalions of the 105th Regiment. 2 battalions, approximately 1,800 American soldiers. Force ratio, more than 2 to 1 in favor of the attackers. At 4:45 a.m. on July 7, 1944, the largest Banzai charge of the Pacific War began.
Salomon hears them before he sees them. At first, it sounds like a distant rumble, like surf, but more rhythmic. Then the sound becomes clearer, and the captain understands. These are voices, thousands of voices, screaming simultaneously in the pre-dawn darkness. Banzai, Banzai, Banzai. The cry means 10,000 years, a traditional wish for the emperor's long life. But in this context, it's the battle cry of soldiers who have accepted death and are coming to take as many enemies with them as possible. The sound builds. Gunfire mixes in. First single shots, then bursts, then continuous thunder. The American front line has opened fire. In Salomon's tent, 3 wounded soldiers, one with a gunshot wound to the shoulder, another with shrapnel wounds to the leg, a third with concussion. Medics bandage wounds. The captain prepares a morphine injection for the most serious case. The thunder becomes deafening. The sounds of M1 Garand rifles are joined by bursts from Browning M1919 30 caliber machine guns. Somewhere to the left, 105mm howitzers boom, firing direct fire. Then, a new sound, heavy, wet impact. then another. Salomon instantly understands this is the sound of bayonets entering bodies. Hand-to-hand combat. The Japanese have broken through the first line. 04:52. 7 minutes after the attack began, a medic from Company B bursts into the tent. He's carrying a wounded man on his shoulders, a soldier with an abdominal wound. 2 more behind him carry an unconscious soldier. They've broken through Company A. There are hundreds, maybe thousands. Salomon lays the wounded man on an improvised operating table, 2 field cots placed side by side. The wound is serious. A bullet passed through the abdominal cavity. Immediate surgery is needed. Otherwise, the soldier will bleed out in 20 minutes. The captain works quickly and methodically. Incision, clamps on bleeding vessels, bullet extraction. Medics hand him instruments, hold retractors, blot blood. Outside the tent walls, the roar of battle grows closer. Over the next 10 minutes, a stream of wounded pours into the tent. Salomon counts. 8, 12, 15, 20 men. They lie on the ground, on cots, leaning against tent poles. Wounds of all types, gunshot, bayonet, shrapnel. The captain switches to triage. Who can be saved with immediate help? Who can wait? Who, unfortunately, is too severely wounded? He gives a morphine injection to a soldier with a thigh wound, applies a tourniquet to a nearly severed arm, sutures a lacerated scalp wound on a third. His hands work automatically, moving precisely, without wasted motion. Years of dental practice gave him the skill to work in confined spaces, under pressure, with maximum precision. Medics tear open bandage packages, prepare syringes, hold wounded men. One medic, Private Johnson, manages to shout, "Doc, there's already 30 of them." Salomon doesn't answer. He's focused on the soldier before him, who has shrapnel lodged in the chest wall dangerously close to the heart. Need to extract it without damaging the pleura. Outside the tent, the sounds of battle change. Now it's not just distant shooting, it's close shots. Screams, the clang of metal on metal. Private Johnson looks out of the tent and pales. "Doc, Japanese 20 yards away. Our guys are falling back to the beach." Salomon finishes with the shrapnel and signals the next medic. He brings forward a soldier with a neck wound. The captain understands the situation instantly. The defense is broken. The Japanese wave is moving through the 2nd Battalion's positions. His aid station is no longer 50 yards behind the front line. It's in the middle of the front line. Salomon hears footsteps. Quick, light, not American boots. He raises his eyes from the wounded man. A Japanese soldier runs into the tent. He wears a torn uniform, his face contorted with battle fury. In his hands, an Arisaka Type 38 rifle with fixed bayonet. The soldier doesn't notice Salomon. His gaze fixes on a wounded American lying down, the very one the captain just operated on. The soldier raises his rifle. Salomon acts on instinct. On the improvised surgical table nearby lies a metal tray with instruments. The captain grabs the tray and hurls it at the Japanese soldier. The tray, weighing about 2 pounds, hits the Japanese soldier in the face. The soldier staggers back, loses balance, falls sideways. His rifle flies from his hands. Salomon lunges to the corner of the tent where his personal weapon stands, an M1 carbine. He grabs the carbine, flicks off the safety, aims. The Japanese soldier tries to get up, reaches for his rifle. Salomon fires. 1 shot. .30-06 Springfield caliber. Distance 6 feet. Center mass hit. The Japanese soldier falls and remains motionless. Salomon doesn't have time to process what happened because 2 more run into the tent. The captain turns, but his carbine catches in the canvas folds of the tent. 2 Japanese soldiers are already 3 steps away. Both have rifles with bayonets. One aims at Salomon himself, the second at the wounded lying down. No time to reload the carbine. Salomon does the only thing he can, uses the carbine as a club. He swings and strikes the first Japanese soldier in the head with the stock. The blow is precise. The stock weighs about 2 pounds, velocity is high. The soldier falls. The second Japanese soldier tries to thrust with his bayonet. Salomon dodges, and the blade passes an inch from his ribs, tearing his medical coat. The captain reverses the carbine and strikes with the barrel at the opponent's throat. The Japanese soldier chokes and grabs his neck. Salomon strikes with the stock again to the face. The Japanese soldier falls. The third opponent is still on the floor, stunned but alive and trying to get up. Salomon approaches, reverses the carbine bayonet forward, and delivers a thrust. Silence falls inside the tent. Only the moans of wounded Americans and Salomon's bone-heavy breathing. 4 medics stare at the captain with wide eyes. A dentist from Los Angeles just stopped 3 enemy soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. Salomon doesn't look at them. He peers out of the tent. The scene outside the tent resembles hell. 100 yards to the left, Company A's positions are completely flooded with Japanese infantry. Hundreds of figures in torn uniforms move through foxholes, pursuing retreating Americans. 50 yards to the right, Company B still holds, but positions there are breached in several places too. And directly in front of the medical tent, 30 yards away, Salomon sees a group of about 20 Japanese soldiers moving in his direction. They haven't noticed the tent yet, but it's a matter of seconds. The captain turns to the medics. On the tent floor lie 32 wounded Americans, some unconscious, others moaning. 3 can move on their own, but with difficulty. Salomon makes the decision instantly. Johnson, Miller, Rodriguez, Smith, listen up. Evacuate all wounded. Each of you takes 2 on stretchers. Anyone who can walk, support them. Direction, toward the beach. Our guys should be there. Move fast. Private Johnson doesn't move. Doc, what about you? I'll cover the withdrawal. That's an order. Execute. But Doc, execute. Salomon had never raised his voice at subordinates. Now his tone brooks no argument. The medics begin evacuation. They lift wounded men, place them on stretchers, support those who can walk. The process takes precious minutes. Salomon exits the tent with carbine at the ready. The group of Japanese 30 yards away grows larger, now about 40. They move disorganized, in scattered groups, but their general direction is toward the medical tent and beyond, toward the beach. Salomon makes a quick calculation. He has 8 rounds in the M1 carbine magazine, plus 2 spare magazines in pouches. 16 more rounds. Total 24 shots against at least 40 opponents. And behind him, 32 defenseless wounded men. Salomon assesses the terrain. 20 yards left of the tent lies a fallen tree trunk, good cover. 15 yards to the right, a shell crater, deep enough to take prone position. But if he moves away from the tent, the Japanese might notice the wounded evacuation and attack them. He needs to hold position here. The Japanese group approaches closer. 20 yards. Salomon makes out faces. These aren't elite soldiers. Many are wounded, bandaged heads, blood-stained uniforms. Some have no firearms, only swords or bamboo stakes. But there are many of them, and they're going to die, taking enemies with them. The captain kneels at the tent entrance, shoulders the carbine, aims at the nearest Japanese soldier. Distance, 18 yards. Easy shot, recoil, bolt clangs, automatically chambering new round. The Japanese soldier falls. The group approaches a moment, then accelerates. They've spotted the shooter. Salomon fires again. And again, the semi-automatic M1 carbine allows firing as fast as he can pull the trigger. 5 shots in 6 seconds, 5 targets down. But the rest continue advancing. They shout Banzai and run straight at him. Salomon empties the magazine. 3 more shots. Magazine empty. The captain releases it. With a characteristic ping, the magazine ejects from the receiver. Salomon grabs a spare, inserts it, charges the bolt. The whole process takes 3 seconds. In that time, the Japanese have closed to 10 yards. The captain continues firing. The M1 carbine isn't the most powerful weapon. The .30-06 round is sufficient to stop a man, but doesn't have the stopping power of heavy machine guns. Some Japanese, after taking a hit, continue moving for several more seconds. Salomon fires methodically, selecting targets by proximity principle. Nearest opponent, priority. Second magazine emptied, the captain reloads.
Last magazine, 8 rounds. And before him, still 20-plus Japanese soldiers.
Salomon understands. The carbine isn't enough. He needs more powerful weaponry. He looks around. 10 yards to the right in the tent stands a Browning M1919A4 30 caliber machine gun position. The gunner lies nearby motionless, wounded or dead, but the machine gun is intact. The captain makes a dash for the machine gun. The Japanese soldiers, seeing he's left position, rush toward the medical tent. Salomon reaches the machine gun in 4 seconds, quickly assesses the situation. The machine gun is mounted on a tripod, barrel pointed toward the jungle. Ammunition belt is loaded, but the bolt isn't cocked. The captain grabs the charging handle, pulls back, releases. The bolt slams into place with a clang, chambering the first round. Salomon swivels the machine gun 180 degrees. Now the barrel faces the medical tent, where the Japanese group is about to burst in. The captain presses the trigger grips. The Browning M1919A4 opens fire at 450 rounds per minute. That means 7.5 bullets per second. Each bullet a full 30-06 round, .308-inch caliber, 150 grains, traveling at 2,800 feet per second. Such a stream of metal leaves no chance. The Japanese soldiers running toward the tent come under fire. The machine gun burst literally sweeps away the group. Those who manage to reach the tent entrance fall right at the canvas. Salomon adjusts fire, moving the barrel left to right, short bursts of 3 to 5 seconds. This is the tactic taught to machine gunners. Long bursts overheat the barrel and waste ammunition. In 20 seconds, the captain fires approximately 150 rounds. The group of Japanese soldiers advancing on the aid station no longer exists. Salomon looks back. The medics are still evacuating wounded. The process is slow because many can't walk on their own. Still 80 yards to the safe zone at the beach. They need more time.
The captain hears shouts to the right. A new group of Japanese, about 30 men, moves through Company B's positions in his direction. Salomon swivels the machine gun, distance 50 yards. He waits for them to come closer. At that distance, bullet dispersion is too great. 40 yards, 35 yards. The captain opens fire. The Browning M1919 was created for situations exactly like this, suppressing attacking infantry at medium ranges. The machine gun fires from a tripod, ensuring stability. Sighting devices are simple but effective. Front sight and rear sight adjustable for range. Salomon fires bursts of 5 seconds. Between bursts, a 3-second pause for barrel cooling and result assessment. The Japanese group takes casualties, but they don't stop. This is the most terrifying thing about Banzai charges. The attackers don't seek cover, don't go prone under fire. They continue advancing even when half the group is already down. 20 yards. The captain sees their faces, contorted with fury, pain, fanatical determination. 15 yards. Salomon switches to continuous fire. The barrel begins heating. He feels the heat even at a distance. 10 yards. The first Japanese reach the machine gun position, but the fire is so dense that they fall within feet of Salomon. Then the characteristic sound, the bolt clicking on empty belt, out of ammunition.
Salomon doesn't have time to reload. 2 Japanese soldiers who managed to break through the machine gun fire are already close. The captain releases the machine gun and grabs the carbine he placed nearby. But the carbine is also empty. He spent the last magazine earlier. The first Japanese soldier swings his rifle with bayonet. Salomon dodges. The bayonet passes by, sticks in the ground. The captain strikes with the carbine stock at the Japanese soldier's hands. He releases the rifle. The second Japanese soldier attacks with a knife. Salomon blocks the strike with the carbine, pushes the opponent away, strikes with the stock to the face. Both Japanese soldiers fall. The captain breathes heavily. Adrenaline compensates for fatigue, but he feels physical resources aren't limitless. He's a doctor, not an infantry fighter. But right now, medical skills are useless. Only the ability to fight matters. Salomon looks around. The wounded evacuation is complete. The medics and their charges are already in the safe zone at the beach, 60 yards away. He sees them disappearing behind coastal dunes. Mission accomplished. All 32 wounded saved. The captain can retreat, but at this moment, he sees a new Japanese group moving from the left. They haven't noticed the evacuated wounded yet, but if Salomon retreats, they'll head toward the beach and run into defenseless men. The wounded are still in danger. Salomon makes the decision in a split second. He stays.
The next 2 hours and 15 minutes exist in military history as fragments, sketchy testimony from survivors who saw what happened from a distance. Here's what is known for certain. Captain Salomon found a new ammunition belt for the machine gun, possibly from the dead gunner, possibly in an ammunition box near the position. He reloaded the Browning M1919 and continued the defense. Japanese soldiers attacked in waves. Not organized assaults, the battle had already descended into chaos. Groups of 10, 20, 30 men moved through American positions toward the beach, where they hoped to find the last pockets of resistance. Salomon's position ended up in their path. The captain fired the machine gun until ammunition ran out again. Then he took weapons from fallen soldiers. Japanese Arisaka rifles, American M1 carbines lying near fallen fighters. Several times the Japanese got close enough for hand-to-hand combat. Salomon fought with stocks, bayonets, in one case an entrenching tool. Witnesses from Company B, which was gradually retaking positions, saw how the lone figure by the machine gun repelled attack after attack. Private Thomas Graham from Company B later testified, "We saw the Doc. He was still at the machine gun. Around him lay Japanese. Many. He fired bursts, then stopped, did something with the machine gun, then fired again. We tried to fight our way to him, but the Japanese were between us." Sergeant William O'Brien from Company C testified, "I saw at least 30 or 40 Japanese lying in front of his position. The Doc held alone. He was giving us time to get the wounded out." It's impossible to precisely reconstruct the chronology, but physical evidence found later tells the story. Salomon sustained multiple wounds: gunshot wound to the left shoulder, bayonet wound to the right thigh, lacerated head wound from a stock or sword blow, shrapnel wound to the left arm. Any of these wounds required medical attention. Altogether, they were fatal. But Captain Salomon continued fighting.
By 8 o'clock in the morning, the intensity of the Japanese attack began to decline. Not because the Japanese were retreating, they were simply running out. 4,000 men who went into the suicide attack were virtually annihilated. Few survived, and those were scattered across the entire battlefield. American forces began a counterattack. Marines from the 2nd Division moved from the north. Remnants of the 105th Regiment retook positions. Artillery methodically worked over areas where Japanese groups still held out. The battle was transforming from assault to mopping up. Private Graham and 3 Company B soldiers managed to fight through to the machine gun position where they last saw Captain Salomon. What they found there shocked even battle-hardened veterans. Captain Benjamin Salomon lay dead behind the Browning M1919 machine gun. His body had multiple wounds. The military pathologist would later count 76 wounds. Most were post-mortem, inflicted after death, when the Japanese, in fury, finished off his body. But the main thing wasn't that. In front of the machine gun position, within a 30-yard radius, lay the bodies of Japanese soldiers. Graham and his comrades began counting. 20, 40, 60, 80, 98. 98 enemy soldiers stopped in front of one man's position. One man against 98. A dentist from Los Angeles who wanted to serve in the infantry. But the Banzai charge didn't end there. Salomon fell, but the battle continued. 300 yards north at Company A's positions, its own drama unfolded. Private Thomas Alexander Baker, a 28-year-old soldier from New York, defended his sector with an M1A1 bazooka. The bazooka, an anti-tank weapon, a tube 2.36 inches in diameter, 54 inches long, firing rockets with shaped charge warheads, created to destroy tanks. But Baker used it against Japanese infantry positions. On the morning of July 7th, when the Japanese wave hit Company A, Baker single-handedly attacked a Japanese strongpoint that was raking the company's positions. He crept within 20 yards and fired a rocket. The strongpoint was destroyed. Then, Baker saw a group of Japanese, about 10 men, surrounding a wounded American soldier. The private rushed there, firing his carbine on the run. He neutralized the entire group and pulled the wounded man to safety. An hour later, a similar situation repeated. A group of 12 Japanese occupied a position threatening the company's flank. Baker attacked them alone. Using a combination of carbine and grenades, he neutralized all 12. But around noon, Baker took a serious wound. A bullet hit his chest, damaging a lung. The wound was severe. Baker couldn't walk. Medics tried to evacuate him, but Japanese fire was too intense. Any attempt to move across open ground meant death. Private Baker made a decision. He ordered his comrades to leave him. "Give me a rifle and ammunition. Go, I'll cover you." The medics refused. Baker insisted. Finally, the company commander supported his decision. They had no choice. To stay meant everyone would die. Baker was left with an M1 Garand rifle and 8 rounds. They propped him against a tree. The rifle barrel pointed toward Japanese positions. The Americans withdrew. By 6 o'clock in the evening, the battle for Tonopah was over. American forces, 2nd Division Marines, and remnants of 105th Regiment battalions pushed back the last Japanese groups and restored control over the entire sector. The battlefield presented a scene that war correspondents described as unbearable to perceive. Bodies of Japanese soldiers lay in rows where machine guns mowed them down, lay in piles where artillery shells hit them, lay singly where American riflemen stopped them. Officers began the count. In front of the 1st and 2nd Battalion, 105th Regiment positions, 2,295 fallen Japanese soldiers. In the rear of those same positions, where Japanese broke through and were destroyed in counterattacks, 2,016. Total, 4,311. 4,311 Japanese soldiers died in 12 hours of battle on a sector less than a mile long. This was the largest Banzai charge of the Pacific War. American casualties were also horrific. The 1st Battalion, 105th Regiment ceased to exist as a fighting unit. 406 soldiers killed, 512 wounded. Of the battalion's officers, 1 survived, Lieutenant John Mulhern from Company B. The 2nd Battalion suffered slightly lighter casualties. Major McCarthy, the commander, survived, but all his staff officers and company commanders were either killed or wounded. The 27th Infantry Division virtually lost 2 battalions in one night, but they accomplished the mission. The Japanese attack was repelled, positions held, wounded saved.
When American patrols returned to Company A's positions searching for survivors, they found Private Thomas Baker. He was dead, still propped against that same tree. The M1 Garand rifle lay across his knees. The magazine was empty, and around the tree, within a 10-yard radius, lay 8 Japanese soldiers. 8 rounds, 8 targets. Thomas Baker, dying from a chest wound, stopped 8 opponents with flawless accuracy before he died.
The bodies of Captain Benjamin Salomon and Private Thomas Baker were evacuated from the battlefield on July 8, 1944. Baker was buried at Saratoga National Cemetery in Schuylerville, New York. On May 9, 1945, he was posthumously promoted to sergeant and awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest U.S. military decoration. His citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty at Saipan, Mariana Islands, June 19, July 7, 1944. With Salomon, the situation proved more complicated. 2nd Battalion Commander Major McCarthy immediately recommended Captain Salomon for the Medal of Honor. The report was detailed, described the defense of the aid station, saving 32 wounded, the final battle at the machine gun, 98 opponents, but military leadership rejected the recommendation. Reason? Salomon was a medical officer. The Geneva Convention prohibits medics from participating in combat. Awarding the Medal of Honor, in the opinion of military lawyers, would be acknowledgement of violating international law. Major McCarthy was outraged. He pointed out that Salomon defended wounded men, that he had no choice, that the Japanese themselves attacked the aid station. Useless. The decision stood. Salomon was buried at the military cemetery on Saipan. Later, his remains were reinterred at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii, without the Medal of Honor, with a simple headstone for a captain of the Dental Corps. But the story didn't end there. Salomon's comrades, surviving soldiers of the 2nd Battalion, didn't forget his feat. Private Graham, who found the captain's body, devoted the rest of his life to seeking justice. In the 1950s, veterans of the 27th Division created a committee to award the Medal of Honor to Benjamin Salomon. They collected eyewitness testimony from everyone who saw the events of July 7, 1944, submitted a new report, denied. For the same reason, medical status. In the 1960s, the veterans tried again, collected additional documents, battlefield photographs, official reports, found the military pathologist who performed Salomon's autopsy and could confirm 76 wounds. Again, denied. In the 1970s, Jewish veterans organizations got involved. They pointed to possible discrimination. Of 8 medics nominated for the Medal of Honor in other wars, 6 received the award. Why not Salomon? Military lawyers stood firm. The precedent was dangerous. If you reward a medic for combat actions, it means medics can participate in combat, and that violates international law. An absurd situation. Salomon performed a feat, saving lives, but couldn't be awarded precisely because he was a medic.
In 1998, the situation changed. Congressman Brad Sherman from California, the same state where Salomon studied and practiced, took personal control of the case. He initiated a congressional investigation. Military historians conducted a new analysis of events. They studied Geneva Convention orders, precedents from other wars, details of the Saipan incident. The conclusion was unequivocal. Salomon didn't violate international law. He defended himself and defended wounded men from direct attack on the aid station. The Geneva Convention permits medics to use weapons for self-defense and patient protection. In other words, the legal justification for denial had been wrong from the start. In 2000, Congress passed a special act authorizing the Medal of Honor for Captain Benjamin Salomon. 58 years after the events on Saipan, President George W. Bush held a ceremony at the White House. The Medal of Honor was awarded posthumously. The award was accepted by Robert West, Salomon's nephew, who was 2 years old when his uncle died. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty on July 7, 1944, on Saipan. Captain Salomon was the surgeon for the 2nd Battalion. When his position was attacked, he ordered evacuation of the wounded and remained alone to cover their withdrawal. He fought until his last breath. His heroism saved the lives of 32 wounded soldiers and inspired all who served with him." Private Thomas Graham, 83 years old by 2002, attended the ceremony. He wept.
The events of July 7, 1944 on Saipan changed American military doctrine in the Pacific. The largest Banzai charge of the war proved to be the last truly massive one. After Saipan, Japanese command realized the futility of such assaults against prepared defenses with machine guns, artillery, and coordinated fire. On Iwo Jima and Okinawa, the Japanese shifted to defensive tactics, deeply echeloned defense in caves and fortifications, gradually wearing down the enemy rather than one suicidal rush. The U.S. Army revised protocols for protecting aid stations. After Saipan, medical tents were placed farther from the front line, minimum 150 yards. A machine gun crew was assigned to each aid station for protection. Benjamin Salomon's story became part of the U.S. Army Medical Corps training program. Future military doctors and medics are taught, a medic first saves lives, but if patients are under threat, the medic has the right and duty
to defend them. Where they are now. The National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, known as Punch Bowl, is located in an extinct volcanic crater. 13,000 American servicemen who fell in the Pacific War are buried here. Section E, Grave 409, white marble headstone, inscription, Benjamin L. Salomon, Captain, Dental Corps, Medal of Honor, 1914 to 1944. Nearby, dozens of graves of his comrades from the 27th Infantry Division. Thomas Baker rests at Saratoga National Cemetery in New York State. His Medal of Honor is kept in the 27th Infantry Division Museum in Syracuse. On Saipan, at the site of the battle at Tanapag, stands a memorial, a marble stele with the names of 406 American soldiers who fell on July 7, 1944. On the Japanese side, a similar memorial with the names of 4,311 Japanese soldiers. Two monuments stand 100 yards apart. Between them, a field that was once drenched in blood. Now, grass grows there. Numbers that speak for themselves. 4,311 Japanese soldiers in the attack. 1,800 American defenders. 12 hours of battle. 406 Americans killed. 4,311 Japanese killed. 98 enemy soldiers stopped by one man. 32 wounded saved. 58 years fighting for justice. One Medal of Honor.
If this story moved you, hit the like button. It's not just a number in statistics. Every like shows YouTube that stories about real heroism interest people, that feats performed 81 years ago still matter, that the memory of people like Benjamin Salomon and Thomas Baker must live on. Subscribe to the channel if you want more detailed, historically accurate stories about World War II. No hype, no fiction, only facts, documents, and eyewitness testimony. And write in the comments, did you know about the Battle of Saipan? Had you heard of Captain Salomon before? Why do you think such stories are little known to the general public? Your comment will help the algorithm show this video to other people who care about military history. Thanks for watching. Remember those who fought.